Montana, winter of 1887, when she arrived before the snow fell. Montana Territory, winter of 1887. The first snow hadn't fallen yet, but the cold already felt like a warning. A sharp wind swept across the empty plains, rattling the wooden walls of a lonely cabin standing miles away from the nearest town. The sky hung low and gray, heavy with the promise of an early storm. Colton Murphy stood outside, staring at the horizon with tense eyes. He had been counting the days carefully. According to the last letter, his mail-order bride wasn't supposed to arrive for another 3 weeks. 3 weeks. He needed that time. Time to finish repairing the leaking roof. Time to chop enough firewood for the brutal winter ahead. Time to prepare himself for the idea of no longer being alone. Because for 5 long years on the Montana frontier, loneliness had been his only companion. Then he heard it. The distant creaking of wagon wheels. His stomach tightened instantly. "No," he whispered under his breath. It was too soon. The wagon rolled closer through the dry, frozen dirt, pulled by 2 tired horses. When it finally stopped in front of his cabin, the driver climbed down and helped a woman step onto the ground. She looked smaller than he imagined. She wore a dark wool coat and held a worn leather suitcase close to her chest as if it contained everything she owned in the world. For a moment, she simply stood there, looking at him with nervous but determined eyes. Then she spoke. "Mr. Murphy?" Her voice was soft but steady. Colton nodded slowly. "Yes." She swallowed, gathering courage. "I'm Olivia Carter, your wife." The words landed heavier than the cold wind. Colton wasn't ready. His cabin was rough, unfinished, and barely comfortable even for one person. Tools were scattered near the walls. A pile of chopped wood leaned unevenly beside the door. Inside, there was only one small bed, a wooden table, and a cast-iron stove. He had imagined this moment many times, but in his imagination, he felt prepared. Now, he felt completely overwhelmed. Olivia stepped inside quietly. Her eyes moved across the room, taking in every detail, the cracked floorboards, the dim lantern light, the faint smell of smoke. "This will do," she said gently. There was no complaint in her voice. No disappointment. Just calm acceptance. And that somehow unsettled him more than anger ever could. That night, the temperature dropped sharply. The wind howled outside like a restless spirit, shaking the cabin walls. Frost formed along the window edges, turning the world into a silent sheet of ice. Colton lay awake near the fire, while Olivia slept on the bed. He stared at the ceiling, unable to rest. He wasn't afraid of her. He was afraid of failing her. Out here, winter could kill a man in days. And now, her life depended on him too. The next morning brought a surprise. When Colton woke, the stove was already lit. Coffee simmered in a tin pot, filling the cabin with warmth. The table had been cleared and organized. Olivia stood near the window, folding blankets neatly. "You didn't have to do that," he said awkwardly. She turned and smiled faintly. "I wanted to." Her voice carried quiet kindness, the kind that asked for nothing in return. And slowly, his unease softened. Days passed. The cold grew harsher. Dark snow clouds gathered across the endless Montana sky. And something unexpected began to change between them. At first, they spoke only about small things, weather, supplies, daily chores. But gradually, their conversations grew deeper. Olivia told him about her life back east. How she lost her parents during a fever outbreak. How she spent years working in a sewing shop just to survive. "I never truly belonged anywhere," she admitted one evening while watching the fire. Colton stared at the flames. "This place isn't easy," he said quietly. "Most people leave." She looked at him with calm certainty. "I didn't come here for comfort." He glanced at her. "Then why?" Her answer came softly. "I came to find a home." The first snowstorm arrived without warning. One night, the sky turned white with swirling snow. The wind roared so violently it sounded like the world itself was breaking apart. By morning, everything outside had disappeared under thick ice. When Colton stepped out to secure the woodpile, his foot slipped on frozen ground. He fell hard. Pain shot through his leg instantly. He couldn't stand. And in that moment, real fear struck him. Winter in Montana showed no mercy. An injury like this could mean death. But Olivia did not panic. She helped him inside, cleaned the wound, and wrapped his leg carefully. Then she took over every responsibility without hesitation. She chopped wood in the freezing wind. She melted snow for water. She cooked, repaired, and maintained the cabin alone. Colton watched her quietly, a deep respect growing inside him. She wasn't fragile. She wasn't helpless. She was strong in a way he had never seen before. One quiet night, as the storm finally began to weaken, he spoke. "Why did you come early?" he asked. Olivia hesitated. Then she whispered the truth. "Because I was afraid." He frowned slightly. "Of what?" She looked at him with honest eyes. "That if I waited, you might change your mind." The words struck him deeply. All this time, he believed he was the uncertain one. But she had carried the same fear, the same loneliness. For the first time, Colton reached out and gently held her hand. "You came at the right time," he said quietly. "If you had waited, I might never have learned how much I needed you." Her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but relief. Outside, the storm finally ended. Soft snow began to fall from the quiet sky, covering the harsh frontier in peaceful white. Inside the small cabin, the fire burned warm. Two strangers who had once feared each other now sat side by side. Still imperfect, still learning, but no longer alone. And as winter settled over Montana in the year 1887, something stronger than the cold had already taken root. Love had arrived early, just like she did.